Can you live in your commercial property? One of the most common questions I get asked from potential buyers and tenants. Stay tuned to hear the answers. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes, episode 1703. Myself, Michael and Cleo talking about can you live in your commercial property? Good morning, Cleo. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, our commercial king.
Yeah. I think this one, like you're been doing residential properties for, you're very experienced, young as ever, vibrant as ever. Lots of experience.
Nice one. Yes.
But mainly in the residential team, I suppose the commercial, I find like commercial, most agencies don't do it. And we've done it for a long time, but it's always sort of been like a nice little, a couple people in it where 90% of the office is in residential. And I think maybe this morning we asked a few of the common questions that come up from your world to my world and go from there. And living in a commercial property, a lot of people want to know, can you do it? And I suppose I asked myself the question.
Look, it's true. Residential and commercial in our office, they do marry up from time to time, especially when tenants need things like storage and they also have businesses themselves, and they do become interrelated, intertwined. So, yeah, it's interesting. We do often come across the topic. I don't know that we get a lot of people saying that that's what they plan on doing, but it does arise from time to time. When there's someone saying, can I sleep here or can I stay in this commercial residence? And more relevant in this current market, I think, with the housing crisis and shortage. I think I want to ask the question, why not? Why can't you sleep in your commercial property, Burge? Like, what if it's a loft and it has like a kitchenette, maybe not a toilet, but a kitchenette, and there's plenty of space? Why can't you stay there? It's your space.
So there's the grey area. The grey area answer, I love the grey area, would be there's nothing stopping you having a nap, staying there. You're working late. You're sleeping there. So to that question, like, sure, yep, you can fall asleep at work. Now, where the distinction would be, is that your primary residence? Are you owning another property, which is technically where your bed is, and you, even if let's just say it's not policed enough for us to know how big the grey area is. In my eyes, the grey area is a Grand Canyon with the amount of what I see day to day in commercial property. You would almost think it is legal with how common it is, but it's almost like the unspoken rule. And as you said, I don't want to say smart people, but the people who sort of know how it works, you don't ask permission. You just
have a nap.
Have a nap, and you just may never leave. And I suppose where I've seen it, so I think foremost, the reason why you can't live in a commercial property is the fundamentals of zoning. There are zoning criteria for every street, every area to control what is being done on that street. Now, building designs for commercial are very different for residential. Fire safety requirements for a warehouse, very different to an apartment. Sunlight requirements for a warehouse, sometimes you're lucky if you have sunlight, are very different to an apartment. Ventilation, all of that in just the way it's constructed, let alone what your other occupants are doing. Now, the closest analogy I could think of the danger of living in commercial would be in residential, would be basically having like a meth lab next to you in a house or a unit with combustible chemicals, machinery. Like that's effectively what you are doing in commercial, but it's legal. Like they could be a painter, they could be doing, what's it called? Panel beater with all this stuff here. So the fume. So and there's no control on that. And that's where zoning is important, where we agree people can live, you don't have those chemicals there, because you're 100% right. Some commercial buildings and properties are way nicer than residential standards. And you're like, this would be a dream to live in. But that may be good for a year, and then you get a business that have chemicals and they don't take care of it, and you're sleeping that in because the insulation between the walls aren't the same, the venting's different, the fire safety. So now that's on the legal side to get us out of any trouble. But I've gone to complexes where I was telling you yesterday, there was 12 warehouses in this complex, and I think 9 or 8 lived there, and they'd been living decades.
Wow, yeah, because those warehouses are huge. You can, it's often much bigger than an apartment. You've got so much to work with.
Yeah, as I said yesterday, if I had my 20s again, that's what I'd be renting. A warehouse. I think
I brought up Tom Hanks in Big, where he has that gigantic New York loft warehouse and just filled it with toys. But yeah, that's interesting that you say about having control on the materials and who's next door and what kind of business. But I feel like, what about all the storage facilities now that are so huge? They are a size of an apartment, and it is storage. It's not deemed, like you said, for a mechanic or a lab or anything like that. It's just meant for storage. Like, I can't think of a more safer style of commercial property if I was going to stay in one, especially those beautiful ones we have in Belrose and that. They're awesome.
100%. So the only thing there, especially now so we had a lot of storage complexes burned down recently last 5 years. Now, when they were built, you basically, what a lot of people don't understand, may not realize, you may look at a new building and see all the fire protections, you got sensors here, but the general rule is the year the building was built is the standard of fire safety. You may look at that and go, that sounds stupid. But then it's also like, well, it's not fair. Well, I don't want to say fair, but it'd be very tough on an owner who buys a building in the 80s and then they've got to spend $100,000 because new rules change on fire safety. So some of these older buildings have a fire extinguisher and a sign. That's it. So you can imagine if you're upstairs having a nap, and then the fire downstairs, like, you're burnt before you even know there's a fire. But as you said, these new ones, the fire protection, every storage has a sensor, has a sprinkler. I remember I was showing it to someone. He looked up and he's like, oh, does this mean all my stuff could get wet? I'm like, yes, but it hopefully stops the building burning down. Yeah. So, like, you can never win. But in regards to, you're right, the amount of protections there. But once again, a lot of those don't have water into the property. A lot of the storage now have a shower, but it's more, see, that's that gray area where it's like,
you're just having a nap.
You're having a nap, you wake up, you want to feel refreshed, you jump in the shower, but you do that 365 days a week. So.
Well, who's that? Well, we've always said that for a bedroom to be deemed a bedroom, it has to have a window. So it has to have a window, some form of natural light coming in. I know we did a few of those in the Carlisle where they had the study, and then what they did was they, put those cube bricks in there. So it was like a window. So then they could make that a second bedroom. So there are loopholes, I'm sure, even with, this particular topic. I guess I just wanted to ask as well, obviously with the shortage, we talked about the conversion of commercial properties and then turning those old dilapidated warehouses and commercial spaces into residential. Is it just because of zoning that they're not doing as many of those, or are they doing as many of those?
Correct. So 10 years ago, when they started talking about the Brookvale Master Plan, there were talks of rezoning Harbord Road near Freshie High School to all residential, rezoning Dale Street, Green Street near the medical centre, Roger Street was done, and changing all that residential. And then state government sort of came along and said, we need more commercial, not less. Let's not change these areas. But then the council didn't really adjust and go, all right, we still need the 3,000 apartments we scheduled, but sort of council, I had it in yesterday's clip, you can't have affordability and progression without working with developers. Like if an area, because it's growing, needs 3,000 units in there or 3,000 dwellings, yes, you could take the 3,000 commercial, you could say take 100 commercial properties, turn it to 3,000 apartments, but everyone still needs to get their car fixed and changed. And Brookvale is that economic heartbeat of the Northern Beaches. If there's no mechanics there, yes, we love like the Marrickville, the art studios, the breweries, the childcares, and a lot of the sexy commercial buildings, but you still need your hardcore industrial panel beaters, mechanics, to be close by. Could you imagine having to drive out west or North City or wherever an hour to get your car checked? Imagine when you break down, like I've broken down or had a pop tire, and it's like I can just roll to my mechanic because I'm on the beaches. Now imagine if you had to go an hour because there was none of that services because we changed all the older buildings to residential. Now, there is a mechanism which they have just activated in Brookvale to help redevelop these older warehouses into nicer buildings, and they've changed the height limit, or changing. First building was just approved in Sydenham Road, number 2, from 11 metres to 18 metres, effectively 3 stories, maybe 6, 7 stories. And that's going to be the trigger to help develop these older buildings, not to residential, but sexy new warehouses, sexy new offices. Because
recycling.
what we correct,
recycling, revamping. I think we need to do more of that. I agree about development, knock it down and build something amazing, but then if they're not going to do that, or we're having blockades on that, why not recycle what we have, make that, like you said, better, more sexy building, or make it a refuge for single mums for what I mean, all that sort of stuff, which is great. But yeah, I agree. Brookvale is our commercial hub, and we definitely need all of those spots there. But yeah, look, I'm still for it. Like, I don't know, taking a nap, taking a shower in your commercial space. We're not suggesting that you do that. However,
no,
it is
very
a
common.
thing. It is very common.
Well, look at how, like, what's a 1-bedroom apartment these days? A new one is, say, $700 a week. And if you're renting a warehouse, $700 a week, that's $1,400 a week. Or you could just have it all in the warehouse. And a 1-bedroom apartment's 50 square meters. So for the same price, you could get a warehouse which is double to triple the size.
Wow.
So there's plenty of room in that warehouse to have a 50 square meter apartment and then have 100 square meters for your business. So it is like, and it's the crunch. I suppose like it was a little like, the original trend would have been that sort of single male mechanic or whatever, working, live, like the old mindset of your Narrabeen shop tops, live upstairs, got your butcher downstairs, all under one roof. This is like the industrial version. Like they legalized it on Pittwater Road, calling it apartment and shop. And in industrial, they just like, this is the other thing. Brookvale, and this may confuse people as well, they used to legally allow this. You will see old little, there's not many left, only a couple, old little houses, single level houses in Brookvale Industrial, because you used to live there. I've sold properties where the owner said, yep, I lived there. This was our tennis court. We had our factory out the back. I don't remember the era, maybe in the 60s, 70s, well before our time. That's what it was. But if it had, what people don't understand, if there's not been a new approval on that property, then you can still legally live in that commercial property. But once you change the tenant or you go from having the residential to an office to like a brewery, you can't go back to the residential. So there are those properties where that guy's lived there guy or gal lived there for 20 years. So it's there, but
thinking about the Lagoon Street corner shop. So you went in there, you could buy your smokes, your milk, whatever. It's a little deli, but then it's part of the house. And you could go into anywhere in the city, Petersham, wherever, Marrickville, and you'll see so many of those where you lived in your business. Yeah, you had the cafe and then the house. So,
and they're hard to sell because they never have the approval. The Lagoon Street, I sold that childcare. There was no approval on paper. It'd just been there 70 years. And I believe there was a council fire in the 80s or 90s. and they lost all the approvals. So they sort of, if you can show this was operating prior, then they leave you alone. But the government love getting bigger. So I'm sure one day they'll have a department checking at night time to see if you're living there. Taxes go up. It'll happen.
Why not? Yeah, let's do it. And we'll be there for all those changes, won't we?
We'll lease you the apartment.
Yeah. So good.
Beautiful.
Well, thanks for clearing all that up today, Burge. Yeah, I really enjoyed this topic and look forward to next Thursday.
Thank you. See ya. Bye.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye.